Hello everyone, today we're having a live reaction to the draft of BRION versus T1. Here with T1's 8th iteration, Teddy has been swapped out for Gumayushi, starting right here with the bans. The Thresh ban against Carrier. As I mentioned with Gumayushi, the Aphelios rises in priority and as such does the Thresh as well. On the other side, these are very standard bans, most recognized as OP champions, with the Seraphine here as well. Yes, she comes in. Aurelia against Closer and as well the Lucian. Yeah, we have seen Closer play them to, let's call it a good extent in the past. And yeah, the Aurelia obviously his main champion, even though the game against Damwon was a loss. Here the Lilia, not only after the Seraphine, in my opinion, the strongest champion in the game at the moment. So the pick obviously has high priority. Additionally, considering what Honor did in the Damwon Gaming series, yeah, you don't want to have him on this pick again. For T1, the Renekton Nidalee, well, obviously going here in for very heavy topside focus and heavy topside aggression. Going on a timer, obviously, as Lilia is hard outscaling Nidalee in every iteration of her build. The Renekton here blinded, so the Gnar counter pick can come in. Lilia Gnar versus Nidalee Renekton. Already I heavy favor Bro here. They can just play more defensively, considering that they're also on the blue side here. They don't have to do so much. They can just like give Gnar a bit of pressure, like from time to time. Maybe place a ward, maybe give him a prank, a pressure gank, and that's it. The Tristana coming in here blind obviously can be flexed for Hannah in the AD carry position, but yeah, she has been seen a lot of play in the mid lane international, so that's a flex here, which is kind of fine. Sunderer then here for Closer. It's one of the like few mages he's able to play. With the Nidalee, of course, very bad. The like double AP synergy. So the chance of Tristana going in the bot lane, and then maybe we're getting something like a set, or like we don't even need to have a bruiser like an Orianna that can go Verdant Barrier. The Azir would have also been kinda nice, as he can also go for Verdant Barrier against the double AP, but obviously being banned here by T1 as so often. The Kalista here, considering that it's Gumayushi and not Teddy, it's not as high of a priority pick here, but obviously Gumayushi has shown that he's capable of playing her as well, and just that the pick is enabling Carrier, who is the like non-rookie. He's the veteran of this very young team here. I think I heard the average age is like, what is it, 18 or something, 17, 19? Like this team is like even so goddamn young. The Alistar ban here, obviously kinda nice. These champions are rather immobile and could be, yeah, comboed quite reliably. The Ezreal here, again, the combination of a very high pressure bot laner and a very defensive bot laner in case T1 wants to really hard commit on these sinful champions here. They're now electing the Kai'Sa, who has fallen quite a bit in priority, which is good. I mean, it's not an OP champion, shouldn't be really so high in priority. Maybe higher in priority than the Renekton, obviously. But yeah. And also she's getting even more AP damage now into the T1 team here. Obviously she is an AD carry, but with her passive the AP damage is quite there. Orianna, as I mentioned, very powerful pick here with her E and the Verdant Barrier. And yeah, obviously having the ball on herself for the extra resistances as well. She's super fine against the mid lane here, and T1 really can't pincer the mid lane position. Rakan and Tristana. So Rakan and Gnar are on theme with the Orianna and Tristana. The Lilia not really on theme with the rest of the comp, but I think she's so versatile she can fit right into anything. Nautilus here, last pick for Carrier. So yeah, nothing too unusual for him. Obviously with the Kai'Sa he can proc the passive just like that. Can lock onto these more immobile champions. Obviously the Q movement speed of Lilia quite high, but she can't really run away from dredge line. Yeah, maybe a dredge line, but from a depth from below, not really possible. So yeah, T1 here has some nice early skirmishing. In terms of scaling, they're kinda oofed, right? Like the AP of these champions will just be so hard to deny. Lilia obviously with a support build can opt into Verdant Barrier as well. And yeah, be completely fine here. Gnar against the Renekton, so that's going in Gnar's favor. Obviously Nidalee will pay more attention to the top side, but yeah, so far I would give the draft edge for BRION. That team comp, it lacks a bit of frontlining, so does T1, and they have to be very clean on their positioning not to get caught by Nautilus and Syndra. But if we say the players are on an even footing, I would much rather have this draft here than this one. It's just easier to play, to turtle in on the blue side, and then like T1 has all the onuses on them to push ahead. So that's it. We see each other after this game in the draft of game number 2. Hello for the pick ban on game number 2. So obviously you see it right here. Fredit BRION was able to achieve the game 1 victory in this series here. On top of good and solid play from them, and most certainly players like Umti did perform rather well. But we have to be honest, the draft was pretty shit from T1, considering the lack of options in the top lane, like Renekton never going to get ahead, never going to be able to help snowball the Nidalee, who is just on her own losing against the Lilia. Mid lane, I mentioned Verdant Barrier wasn't really picked up, but the Mercury threats for the Orianna, there was no kill threat at any point. Yes, she lost the turret, but in the end I'd have to say, if Yorang would have played that out better, he could have then froze the waves and the turret take would have actually been quite bad for T1. In the bot lane, the self-counter pick with the Kai'Sa against the Tristana, obviously at any stage of the game quite favorable for the Tristana, also didn't work out. So you have a comp that needs to get ahead early, but it's actually like kinda losing all lanes. So let's talk about the bans here. T1 banning these very strong picks, or like regarded strong picks, I don't really agree with that. On the blue side, as well as the Tristana, which is very peculiar, the Tristana shouldn't really be banned. So yeah. On the other side, picking the 2 champions closer feels comfortable with, and obviously this against Honor. So Seraphine here first pick, please. Please Seraphine first pick, let's hope T1 has practiced her. I mean, they had a lot of time to practice this champion, and so let's hope we see it her, and yes, very nice. So T1 have finally, after a lot of time, added this OP champion to their repertoire. I'm really looking forward to see what hopefully closer, but the thing is this is not a closer pick, so I guess carrier. I really don't want to see carrier players, like either Gumayushi or closer. She really excels with the added resources of like a carry, and then she's even more oppressive. The Thresh pickup here, obviously, like indicating an Aphelios maybe here for Hannah. And Aphelios, Aphelios into Seraphine, it's fine. I mean, they both don't really want to run at each other, so that could result in some standoffs. The Jinx here, we have seen her being elected in the prior series, and a bit more in the LCK in general. With the Thresh, obviously the added mobility and the buffs she received over the patch, right? The buff and nerf, and then the redone of the nerf. So she's quite strong at the moment. And again the Kai'Sa into the setup. So Kai'Sa with Seraphine, not really following a line in their identity. Kai'Sa against Jinx, so Jinx is outranging her and pushing her in. In terms of dueling power, I have to give it to Kai'Sa in some cases. The Thresh here, against the Pyke, I think Thresh is just the better Pyke. Pyke with Seraphine, like the identity of how the team behaves is already kinda strange. So these champions really move in, and Seraphine is like standing backwards. Obviously this could create space for her, and her ultimate obviously synergizes kinda great with players or teammates in front of her, right, extending the range. So we have to see if that's something they, like maybe this is something they practice and we don't really know some like hidden benefits. At least this says that Seraphine is in the mid lane, which, yeah, is kinda nice. I don't know why you would pick the Pyke here unless you want to hide jungle and top lane. Because obviously you could like hide the Seraphine in the mid lane with this. Azir against Seraphine, completely fine matchup. Seraphine's range can somehow bully him if Closer is playing her particularly good. But overall, Azir as a like more neutralizing champion in the mid lane matter is obviously fine. Talk about the bans here. So Olaf with Seraphine is a noun combo. It's quite good again for the same reasons as I like may think this might work. Olaf with his like going in playstyle. Quite nice here with the extension of Seraphine ultimate. Gnar again. So this shows that the Renekton pick is coming in quite likely. And Gnar has been also a good pick for Zeus in the past. These two jungle bans here, quite questionable. So like Hecarim obviously has like easy backline access against the Seraphine with his ultimate, and I am not really sure about this one. The Skarner, like yes, obviously Skarner can ult them, but he should never be in range, and so that's a bit strange. Maybe they have some intel on Umti's champion pool. The Renekton here blind, so with all the scaling here, maybe the Renekton is some kind of bridge champion. So yeah, that's Sion against Renekton, completely neutralizing the top lane. So T1 says, yeah, we play around bot side with the Pyke here, and then have Seraphine roam into skirmishes. Graves as well. So Graves and Sion, that's a great combination Damwon showed. So T1 is adapting. Look at this, like so much adaptation. Graves, Sion, Seraphine. Great, great. Not really sold on the Kai'Sa here, to be honest, but that's good, that's good. Graves into the Taliyah, which is being, like, was last picked here, as you saw. Also, yeah, this kinda goes in Graves' favor, to be honest. Obviously, if Taliyah ever gets the jump on him, the lack of magic resistance on Graves early on is kinda hurtful. But after the Taliyah nerfs in terms of movement speed, her clear speed is quite worse. So that's a fine matchup. Also here Taliyah Renekton, obviously very strong, but Sion on blue side should be able to hold the line quite good. She can come down into the bot lane against the Pyke and Kai'Sa with her ultimate as well, but shouldn't really like the bot side too much. So overall, yeah, kinda nice here. Maybe let's pause this here. So, sorry for this here, but anyway, so top lane. I think this is fine for Sion. He can really, like, if this is, I'm not a great artist, so if this is somewhat the top lane, he can really stay safe here, hold the wave here, and even though Taliyah and Renekton can get Herald, and even if they take his turret, so what? Sion is hard outscaling. With the Graves, actually the gank setup into the Renekton does exist, and then using the avenue of the river, obviously Sion with his ultimate as a semi-global can move down and attack the bird or the drug addict. Mid lane, as I mentioned, it's kinda neutral. After game 1 performance, I would give the edge to Closer obviously, as he was really smurfing individually onto Yarong, even though the turret take is not really what I like to see. Like the plates is one thing, but I think the plates should have gone into the Renekton, so that he may at least be somewhat useful. But yeah, the turret take was not very smart. Here I hope that Seraphine is not taking any turrets. Into the bot lane, I'm not too familiar with like Carrier's Pyke and Kai'Sa. Like I think they should have quite a good of burst damage. So yeah, Jinx has to watch out with the Jinx changes. If she's able to, bypass the, like, what is like the first, like 6-7 minutes, get a good, like, buy, like, of tier, and probably boots. I would like boots, early boots. She can, like, spam her rockets and insta-shove the wave. With the range advantage, there is then little they can do. Obviously, on the blue side here for the bot side, or the blue jungle side, with the safer wall here, right? What is it like? Ooh. Yeah. Oh god. So, let's ignore the drawing. The safer bot side here for Fredit BRION obviously means that they don't really have any opponents on them, and Jen can just wait till Pyke is more useless. Later on, the scaling on T1 side is obviously very great. The Pyke here is like a bridge, as is Reaktion on the other side. Taliyah is not really ever in range to flip any one of the T1 carries. With her E though, she can deter at least some of them to be way too aggressive, and the range of Azir Jinx is actually kinda nice against the low range targets here. But with Sion and Seraphine follow-up, they actually have a nice way to engage into Fredit BRION, who does not really have a reliable frontline that is all too tanky. So in this case, it depends somewhat on the execution, right? But I would give the edge here in the draft to T1. There could be many ways this could be played out, but simply the power of Seraphine in these late game fights is just very, very oppressive. And yes, they have the DPS, and if like Sion is not with the team, this could work out quite nicely for BRION with their, as I mentioned, extended range and Jinx resets. But overall, T1, considering the player strength, they should have this one in the bank. So yeah, let's see if that's true, and maybe we see each other in draft number 3. Till then. So, we see each other again after game number 2, as you see, with not being in draft number 3, and with the score here on top. BRION has been able to get the 2-0 victory over T1 here, and as you see, quite the dominant game so far here. T1 able to stabilize the gold deficit for a bit, but then obviously it turned out to be even rather. So let's talk about this game and then the series. So obviously here, where's my mouse? The top lane here was completely fine for T1. Zeus was holding up, but then as the map got broader, he was failing to get any CS. Like, he was like behind in CS by like 70 or something, and then in terms of like behind the clock, he was like maybe 200, I don't know. Like last time I checked, he was like 170 CS, so that would be like nearly 200 CS down the clock, which is obviously, the farm was funneled into Teddy, but still, like, your Sion can't really be the tanky frontliner that he needs to be if he's not getting any resistances. Zeus, with quite a smart build, with the Gargoyle Stoneplate second, obviously high resistances, and the passive in both. The passive getting the X resistances in teamfights, and the active like doubling the health, like not really doubling, but getting a good chunk of health bonus. Obviously quite great with the Sion. Honor, well, many will call that he played quite poorly. Well, he didn't have a large impact, but if the enemy Taliyah gets the unofficial pentakill in the 10th minute or something like that, there's pretty much little you can do. Considering the lanes, obviously he could have looked into the top lane a bit, which is the obvious like gank setup. He played around closer a bit, protecting him, as like she is quite vulnerable after level 6. in the bot lane. He was there for like some scenarios, but as I mentioned with the pentakill, these bot lane tries from T1 were so hard punished by BRION. It's really astonishing. The TP plays from closer. Again, just like the Rise game, he TPs into 20 people. It's like, the TP does not really make sense. Like, even if you say, oh, he didn't knew these other people were there, in terms of positioning, like, you could argue for a Rise that he wants to be a bit more up close, but in like early game Rise doesn't want to be in melee range to these enemies. And the Seraphine, like, there were other minions, there were a turret, he didn't have to TP on that ward, so yeah. But if you looked at the player camps, I mean, the caster said it if you paid attention to that. These players, they were so tilted just after like a few minutes with the like quite poor early game. And yeah, even cheerful players like Carrier, Honor, like Zeus as well, they were so tilted. It's just very hard to see. So this Team 8, it was a complete failure. I don't think, like absolutely don't think this is Gumayushi's fault. I mean, he's the only change from the Team 7 loss against Damwon. I don't think like his performance was particularly bad. He had some plays that weren't optimal, but I mean, he was trying so hard in some team fights. Like, his positioning then was a bit over aggressive and was punished. But to be honest, like, he was never the first one to really die, and in these cases the teamfight was always lost already. So I don't think his performance wasn't particularly quite bad. The Kai'Sa pick, maybe that's like his fault, maybe he was advocating for the pick, and that's something that we can maybe fault him for. As yeah, against the Tristana in the blind pick scenario, maybe they were 100% sure that Tristan was going into the mid lane. But nah, like, you can't really do that. You can't really assume that so hard, especially after seeing like so much Tristana play in the bot lane around the world. We know that T1 is not really looking elsewhere in the map, on the world, in terms of the meta, which often leads to them not adapting so fast. The adaptation, as I mentioned, with the top side here, the Sion, Graves, and Seraphine, straight up stolen from Damwon Kia. I think that's great. I think that's so strong, especially on the safer blue side. This is so safe. They really scale well. The Pyke, obviously, like, I don't know, he's a bit off theme, right? You could argue that he's some kind of bridge champion, as I was trying to in the draft phase. But yeah, like, you don't need to bridge if you can just turtle in. Like, blue side terrain is very, very safe. And then again, Kai'Sa with her short range, like, the top side is so safe and like nearly impenetrable. Bot side on the other side, not only because of like blue side, the red side jungle terrain, the red themed jungle terrain being a bit more vulnerable for them, but yeah, again, the matchup, like, Jinx was like first rotation. Jinx Thresh was the first rotation from BRION. Like, it's not too great. Like, obviously in the first few levels, the Thresh, the Pyke and Kai'Sa do fairly well, but other than that, later on, it's just meh. The range advantage is just so super strong, and in the team fights, like, if you can trade the Renekton for the Sion, BRION already has won, right? The advantage that T1 has with their team comp is that the Sion is like more tankier than the Renekton and is offering like hard engage, right? That's the advantage I mentioned T1 has with their comp in terms of the team fights. Yes, the scaling of the Seraphine and Kai'Sa is good, but the range disadvantage against Jinx and Azir is quite detrimental. So they were really banking on Sion, and the engages of him, like, they were really good. Like, Zeus was playing quite good, but the Weaver's Walls of Talia in some cases, and the like maybe over accept. Maybe the too great respect on the Renekton in some cases was just an error. I don't know. The fact that Sion was traded for Renekton it's just astonishing. That the Renekton is able to buy as much time as the full tank Sion, just so crazy. And if you like eliminate both of the top laners and just look at the 4v4, there's no, like T1 has absolutely no chance, like the 0 chance. Unless they are like flash hooks or like flash ultimates from Seraphine and Pyke, there's no chance. The range disadvantage is just so major. And with Taliyah, she can really punish the engages of these melee champions if they should like flash or E or dash towards them to get into range. She can just easily like EW, and maybe like sometimes just the Q is enough. And especially considering the massive influx of gold she had, it's just so strong. But yeah, let's stop talking about game number 2. The performance again, considering here that in both games Closer was on a control mage, more so in game number 2 with the support of Seraphine than the like Syndra of course. But again, if he's not on these like 2 champions or 3 champions that he is comfortable with, or that he really knows how to play in multiple stages of the game, he's just so like he's looking really lackluster. Like obviously Faker is coming in here again for me, but if he can only play 3 champions, Zoe, Irelia and Lucian, and Zoe not really being all too powerful at the moment, and like even the Lucian and the Irelia performances weren't all that promising, and like just to throw these 2 bans at them, what else does he have? His Syndra laning phase was good, but to be honest, like playing Syndra laning phase to a good extent, it's the basic level any like LCK and Challenger player should have. Obviously, he was playing quite good and was getting a good advantage. Again, I think the turret take was bad, but he was building up a lead. But then, obviously, the game was kinda lost around him with the top lane not being existent. But the impact he had personally was also really lackluster. So, yeah, again, like his Seraphine play, it was just okay-ish. Like, I was really looking forward to T1 finally picking this champion up. But then again, weren't really able to do too much with her. So, really strange. Then, the overall draft. I have to say, again, the adaptation to Sion, Graves, Seraphine. I have to call this an improvement. Especially after the horrendous game 1 draft, right? You can't just, like, games go fairly long. Like 24, 25 minute games, we don't see that anymore. Like, unless you're stomping really hard. And I guess T1, like, they have been on like a good swing. Yes, the loss against Damwon, but everyone is like selling it as a, yeah, they were able to play 1-2 against Damwon. Whoa. So on paper they are on like a good run. So maybe they were like expecting to completely run over Brion, and even the casters mentioned, yeah, the series will be super fast, T1 will stomp them 2-0, that's it, right? That was T1's expectation as well. But you still can lose draft, and if you don't play accordingly and have no chance to play accordingly because of the matchups, then you're still going to lose. Simple as that. So it's quite simple that the draft is an improvement here on draft number 1. But again, these players are not on their comfort picks, and yeah, considering like late game fights, they have not really like these champions here want to scale. But in late game fights, you only have this one option here, the like Pyke being completely off. Like, it's like, even though Leona is kinda one-dimensional, a Leona would have been better. And Leona, like, you could call Alistar, not really like great fan of Alistar here in this scenario, but Alistar, Leona, yeah, they would have done better in my fair opinion here. So again, just a tiny bit, and the draft could have been way better. And then obviously the play was a different issue. Like so many like quite silly rotations. And yeah, that's when we go back full circle again to the players. So Faker not playing, Teddy not playing. I can understand for Kana and Kaz not playing. Kana obviously not being a veteran really himself, so he wouldn't really add too much in the experience and leadership department. But yeah, all these veterans not playing, like in this iteration you even take out Teddy for Gumayushi. Again, it's not Gumayushi's fault per se that this is the result here. But the team has no leadership, the calls are like very questionable. Like in this game, the 2-item, like the game state was like the third Drake was spawning, T1 was on 2 items, Brion was on 2 items, and in some cases 2.5 items. And yeah, in this case, T1 will always like has the best chance to fight this, but they were like trading the Drake for a top lane tier 2 turret, which is a complete luxury turret that's completely unnecessary and might even be a hindrance in some cases for the third dragon. So you say, yeah, the third dragon doesn't do anything yet, it's just the soul, right? But if you think about it, in these 4 minutes, will T1 be able to finish the third item? No, right? They were just getting their 2-item power spikes in so many cases. And Brion, in these 4 minutes, will they be able to finish the next item? Yeah, in some cases, quite likely. With the map pressure and the gold advantage, they were able to get 3 items on the soul fight, while T1 was like 2 items and 2.5 items. So, not recognizing that the third Drake was your moment to fight, like, maybe that's nitpicking, but I think like that's something a team of this caliber has to notice. I mean, the gold income was really hampered for them. Overall, it comes back to the aggression is not working, the drafts is not like, this is an aggressive like lineup in terms of players, right? You get these young players because they're super aggressive, at least that's the theory behind this. But then you draft late game scaling. That's not really working out, right? Young players who have like this aggressive nature obviously also don't have the experience for the late game. And this was seen in the play, this was seen in the rotations. Overall, it was just not working out. So T1 goes back to the drawing board. Obviously, the entire team will be flamed to death online. And I don't know, they were flamed the entire season, so the flame is not really working. And I sure hope that some players like aren't bullied into some mental hospital, or let's not over exaggerate, like weren't bullied too much. Like Kana obviously wasn't really taking the blame too well, and we haven't seen from him like for a really long time, not only on the Rift here in the LCK, but also in terms of streams and offline content from T1. So yeah, the flame obviously doesn't really do all too much. The management team doesn't really care what you say to them. Yeah, the flame doesn't really do anything, so please keep that down. I just sure hope they aren't putting this roster again on the Rift. It like the issues were clear to see for everyone, I think. So the tilt, the lack of leadership, the uncoordination in the late game, and the inability to play multiple styles. So even if they are winning best of ones, best of twos here, or like the best of threes, right? In a best of 5, I have like no hope for this lineup. Like they can only play this one style, like early aggression, balls to the walls. Like if we win, we win, or otherwise we go to hell and back to hell again. So yeah, like this team is not set out. Like this is another 2 games. So yeah, another series lost, and yeah, even if against KT, the team 9, whatever version this may be, or maybe we go back to a past iteration, I don't know, whatever this iteration, next iteration will be, they will have like so little time. Even if they stay together for all the next series, they will have so little time to like build up synergy for playoffs. And yeah, it's just like Spring is a dumpster fire. It's just a dumpster fire. Like a 2-0 loss against BRION here is just the icing on the cake. They were hiding the fact how bad it was with these like wins against like Sandbox and Nottingham. Like, yeah, so what? Against Dragon Axe and Damwon, they were able to coin flip one game, and then in the other games they were completely like clapped to the wall. The performance was like all over the place. And if you exclude the like early laning power of these individual players, as a team, T1 is like completely lacking. There's like no team play at all. But I think let's finish for now. Quite a depressing video today, I'm quite sorry for that, but we have to say what we see, and we see a bit of adaptation, a bit of thinking here in the draft. Maybe this is a sign for better drafts in the future. I mean, game 1 draft, like, if you consider the actual player level, the game 1 draft could have worked if you just outplay. But obviously that's not really what you set out to draft, right? You're not drafting, okay, we're better and then we win with this draft, right? You're not Perks or someone. You shouldn't be that arrogant, all cases. As such, the draft 1 was not good, draft 2 improvement, but again, the like key factors here. Like T1's bottom lane was always their strength in this like Team 7 iteration. They were playing around bot lane so much, and now they draft this like weak bot lanes like in a row. Just so crazy. Just so crazy. I would really like know what they're thinking. What is their plan? I mean, they're like getting like so much money, they're paid. Like this is their only job they have to do, then like they're not working 5 jobs full time. They just have to draft and get this team to work. I don't know what's going on. Like they have to be so like great personal issues probably. That's the only reason like I can think of. Like why would you just throw Spring Split to the wall and like spit on it? Anyway, I need to shut up. So, wish you all a great day. We see each other on Sunday with the KT T1 series for the Telecom War. Let's hope we see some continue with like improved drafts, like the Seraphine pickup, very important. The T1 after like 12 series now have finally showed this. And yeah, maybe the Team 9 could like solve some of the problems. Let's just hope. There's little time, like just a few days till there. So with the rumors of like Faker not scrimming, chances of him appearing, I have to say are quite low. But like they have to do something, right? If they go back with the same lineup against KT, and like they get flamed either way. But if they should lose against KT with this lineup, I don't know. Maybe fans are storming T1 headquarters. Oh, it's such a mess. I need to shut up. I'm sorry. Again, a great day. Till next time.